3:40, so it is time for us to begin. So welcome to Internet Rules Lawyering. My name is Jovy. I'm a level 2 judge from Burnaby, BC in Canada. I'm roughly like 30 minutes east of Vancouver. I am spawn-soft and probably a living meme, so you'll have some fun stuff. Okay, so with the state of 2020 being as it is, Magic and events has changed a lot. And before, we used to have these very, very nice and large events. Actually, exactly 1 year ago, pretty much exactly this weekend, was Magic Fest Montreal. That was my first Magic Fest as a level 2. I'm in the bottom left here, and how happy we all were when events were still running. But, we now have a pandemic. Everything is kind of garbage fire. Your garbage fireness depending on your current locale. But here is the future of judging in 2020. Thanks, Lane. Hey, I know it's 1 a.m., but I have a judge question, so I'm DMing you. As seen in the fun event meme group. And now we move to sort of the meat of our presentation. Player questions. This is basically going to be our big number one sort of quote-unquote judging task while we have a global pandemic. Hopefully they don't involve too many 1 a.m. texts from your players. And here's a few ways of getting your question answering fix. So first of all, there is a very big Facebook group. It's called Ask the Judge MTG Rules Group. It was an official project from the Legacy Judge program and is still very active. It is a public group, however, so be aware that it does spam your friends' Facebook feeds if you comment a lot in it. I can definitely say that I have had people unfriend me because of that. I would not be surprised. So facebook.com/group/MTG Ask the Judge. That's sort of one of the biggest and most active ways of answering player questions from outside of your play group. Next, there is also an IRC channel. That's MTG Rules, and it was also an official project from the Legacy Judge program. It is a little bit harder to get to than Facebook, but it is a much more focused experience because everything is now like a scrolling text chat, and people only really ask rules questions on there, sometimes some policy, and there is a web client available for it, but if you do end up starting to use it or start to answer questions on IRC a lot, you might want a standalone client. And personally, I use HexChat, but you can find the IRC channel at chat.magicjudges.org/MTGrules. And there's a few subreddits as well. There's the MTG Rules subreddit. It spun off from the big Magic TCG channel subreddit because basically people would just downvote rules only posts a lot and just clog up the main one. So that was made. And there's also a MTG Judge subreddit. It is more of a sort of global judging discussions subreddit, but there used to be weekly rules only mega threads where you could answer some questions as well. And one last big one, there are some Discord groups. Two of them that I know of, MTG Judges Chat and the Judge Academy Discord. So those are more resources for asking other judges for confirmation or for discussions on some potentially difficult judging topics of rules and policy topics. I highly encourage you to join at the very least Judge Academy Discord because you will also get access to pings for when they have announcements, and they also host their weekly office hours there. So if you have questions, it is a very easy way to get a hold of some of the program leadership like Nicolette. Okay, so now that I've shown you where to get your fix, here's some of my tools of the trade. Basically what I like to have open when I'm answering rules questions actively. So I usually like to do rules questions answering when I'm at a computer, but sometimes you end up doing stuff on mobile. And while it is easier to do it on desktop, mobile is also possible. But the desktop tools of my choice, I use Scryfall for getting Oracle text, and I use Yoggatog for comprehensive rules, and also Venser's Journal for MTR and IPG. Okay, cool. And those are pretty regularly updated. Sometimes there is a little bit of a delay on Yoggatog, but if you really, really need those updates faster, Venser's Journal is usually very fast about updating. If you're on mobile, if you're on Android, I highly recommend MTG Familiar. It has pretty much everything: Oracle text, CR, MTR, IPG. It is free. It is regularly updated, sometimes not as quickly updated as I would like it to be. But like basically there's also the web versions of the stuff that you can access. Okay, we had a question, what is Yoggatog? So we'll move back one slide. And Yoggatog is a searchable HTML version of the comprehensive rules. So it is super handy if you know what words to look for. So say, for example, if you wanted to look up something about dependencies or layers, you can actually just search through that and find the correct rules citation in a very short amount of time. Okay, and yeah, so there also used to be an app for Android called MTG Judge Core app, and is sadly no longer under development, but it used to contain up-to-date versions of MTR and IPG in a better organized format than MTG Familiar. And if you're on iOS, I have heard very, very good things about MTG Guide. It is sadly not a free app, but its updates are lightning fast because the dev gets a good chunk of money out of it. And there's Bugco, which I have heard of, and I've tried using on Android a little while back. It is free, but it is kind of clunky. Hopefully, they have made some improvements to the UI and just the speed of it, and hopefully it's a little bit more smooth now. Okay, so let's see here. Do we have any questions about other stuff while we're here? Nope. Okay, cool. So here is the Swift response to things. I'm in this picture and I don't like it. Basically, some of these rules groups run super fast, and it's pretty much like people are answering within like 5 to 10 seconds. And it is amazing, and it is also sometimes scary how quickly some of these people are answering. So if you are in the chat channels, make sure that you're tagging the person you responding to in the chat so that they get notified. And if there's a chat bot like Datadog in the IRC or JudgeBot in many of the Discord channels, make sure that you learn the commands for calling on it so that you save yourself a little bit of time in looking up gatherer text or Oracle text. And if you are on IRC where there is no people are typing indicator, sometimes players can get impatient and leave while you're in the middle of typing an answer, which kind of sucks, but it is sort of fact of life. Or they just accidentally get disconnected, and then you have to figure out which new user is actually the old user that got disconnected and had rejoined. So you go and tag them again. Okay. And if you're on Facebook groups, this applies primarily for the Ask the Judge Facebook group, but they really, really, really do not like strategic advice. So try not to give that. Keep it to 0 if at all possible. If you like, you can add your level tag, either RA for Rules Advisor or L1, L2, L3 to your responses if you need to be speaking with some amount of rules authority, but you don't have to. It is totally optional, and some members prefer not to, some members prefer to. It really depends. And basically, moderation does tend to be fairly tight in order to curate the group better. So please be vigilant about stuff and don't go off on tangents, because basically when a thread derails, it becomes really annoying. Because I've seen like my notification meter go up into like 30 or 40 sometimes, and it is sort of ridiculous. Okay. All right. So a few ground rules. Here's a meme. Please don't give one-word answers. It's nice to have CR quotes, though, that are relevant. So as I had said before, we should try not to answer with a single yes or no if at all possible, because basically you're just kind of giving them, here's this canned response, and you're not really explaining to them why a certain rule works a certain way, especially if it's something that is a very quick one. If you can explain it in like 1 or 2 sentences, please do. And if someone has already given an answer, and try not to post into it unless either A, like you were like just a few seconds slower and you didn't quite realize, that's fine. Or the other one is if some information that is very relevant is missing. So if someone just gave a yes, no, then you can now follow up with a this is what and this is why sort of thing. Shorter explanations are generally nicer, just because it's less of a burden for the player to read, and try and give answers at regular REL unless otherwise specified, because usually a lot of these are players playing casually. If they are in an event, hopefully they're not trying to use an electronic device at competitive to ask for a call. That'd be a little weird. Like sometimes there are judges in events that are asking questions as an SOS call, so and kind of trying to get the advice of the interwebs, but that is sort of a lot rarer. Okay. And some of these questions can become quite complex. So 2 a.m. commander questions, yeah. Or flashbacks. And complex questions about stack or sequencing are best answered if you give a step-by-step overview of like exactly you do this, do this, do this, do this, stack looks like this, etc. Like walk through every single step with them. Show your work, don't skip steps. It's basically like doing math at that point. Okay. All right. And levels. Does your judgment level matter in the realm of answering rules questions over the interwebs? Not really. You don't really have to be a actual certified judge to know how the rules work. Level is merely a floor for the amount of rules and policy knowledge that you're expected to have. I've seen rules advisors and level 1s with amazing rules knowledge. I've seen level 2s that could be a lot better at some of the more difficult parts of level 2 rules, like layers, cough, cough, layers. So your level doesn't really matter here. Your ability to interpret the rules is what actually is important. Okay, so do you have any comments in the chat? No. Cool. Any questions while we're going through here? Nothing in Discord. I'll wait for another 5-10 seconds for the presentation to catch up on YouTube. Nope. Okay, cool. All right, so here's some practice, and I promise you that this is not just silly questions from the event meme group. Okay, maybe one thing from the event meme group. Wow, how'd you get like that? Every time I answer a question, I do one push-up. That might be true if I had the discipline, but I don't. Okay. One thing that comes up a lot online with rules questions is people try and ask the questions in a wordy way or try and demonstrate knowledge of the rules, but in doing so make it more difficult. Yes, that does sometimes happen, and we'll see some examples in our practice questions. So guidelines. Please respond in the chat. Either chat works. So either Discord chat or YouTube chat. I will be paying attention to the Discord chat a little bit more, but you can still answer in the YouTube chat. That's fine. Please do not answer with one-word answers. I will try and angry react whenever possible. If your answer has already been completely posted, just give it a like. Or basically that just means only add more stuff if you have more things to say. Make sure that you have your tools accessible. So Oracle Text, CR, MTR, IPG. You won't need all of them, but you might need some of them. And we'll discuss each of these scenarios after a few comments have come in for those. So I know that there's going to be like a 10-second delay, so don't worry too much about it. Okay, so first question. Can I cast Maria's Call from a graveyard with Crucible Worlds? What about Maria Shattered Skyclave from a graveyard? Go. Wait like 10 seconds for the thing to actually show up for you. There's wonderful YouTube delay. And I see several people are typing. So wait for a few responses to come in. The land can be played, the spell not. Why? Prepare's one-word answer. Prepare's angry react. Okay. All right. So, here, Crucible Worlds allows you to play only the land side of a modal double-faced card from your graveyard. Currently, there is nothing in the comprehensive rules that says this. This is because there was some oversight in Matt Tabak's update. So it will be the exact rule citation will be updated with the next update. But basically, you can find this bit of information in the Zendikar Rising release notes already. It's a little bit different from the Melek or Kess or whatever versus Adventurer cards situation, because instead of both parts being cast, it's for modal double-faced cards. One face is played, the other is cast. So it doesn't quite that rules text in the steps of casting a spell, I think 601 point something, doesn't quite apply here. Yep, you can play the land, but you can't play the spell. Cool. All right. Nice, nice. Next question. If I name Goblin Wizard with Ruined Halo during an M21 draft, do I have protection from my opponent's Goblin Wizard tokens? Okay, so we're waiting for some answers to come in. Several people are typing. Good, good. Okay, so we have some answers come up. Daniel's got it. So we have a card called Goblin Wizard. Does that change your answer in any way? All right, so this is a little bit tricky, but you can. Because the name of the Goblin Wizard token is Goblin Wizard. Basically, 111.4 says that tokens that don't have specific names are actually take their name from their subtypes. So a Goblin Wizard token is actually named Goblin Wizard, and there is a card called Goblin Wizard in the Dark. So when you choose a card name, you have to name a real card, and Goblin Wizard is technically a real card, so you do get protection from your opponent's Goblin Wizard tokens. I know. It's silly, and I love the player that asked this question, because that threw me in for a loop as well. Now, you might be wondering, do I have to name cards from the format that I'm playing in? Well, the answer is no, because you used to be limited in that regard before, but because the Magic Tournament rules have been decoupled from the comprehensive rules, you can actually name a card from any format, not just the format that you're playing in. So there used to be a case where the MTR said that, or the CR said that you had to name format legal cards, but that is no longer the case. You can name any card. Now I'm super curious if this works on Arena, because that card isn't on there. Well, I mean, this is like super corner case of corner case scenarios. Like, no one in their right mind would be playing Ruined Halo in M21 draft. But, you know, I'm sure that there might be like a, support ticket about that. All right, next question. I control Ashaya and Glorious Anthem. My opponent plays Blood Moon. What happens to all my creatures? We'll wait a little bit for the initial answers to come in. Okay. So we have a few things here first. Cool. All right. This one is a little bit of a head scratcher, because this does involve some tricky layers things. Okay, so in layer 4, we have a dependency. We have Blood Moon and Ashaya both applying type-changing effects. Now, here, Blood Moon depends on Ashaya because applying Ashaya first will change what Blood Moon will apply to. So we therefore apply Ashaya first. When a land has its land type set to a different land type, it loses all of its abilities and it gets a new land type and a new mana ability. So basically, Ashaya losing its characteristic defining ability makes it a 0/0 up to, and then Glorious Anthem moves it up to 1/1. If it weren't for Glorious Anthem, Ashaya would die. Yes. Me apathetically shrugging and some tricky layers things make name a more iconic duo. Indeed. But, you know, if I would be very, very surprised and impressed if we got to a actual tournament situation with this live, like at competitive. I have some fun stories if we have time afterwards. But yeah, all the other creatures will not have any other abilities other than being able to tap for a red. They will still be creatures, though. I think one wins. Okay. Next, if I control Teferi's Ageless Insight and draw cards with Jace Mirror Mage, do I still have to reveal both cards I drew? What about removing loyalty counters? We'll wait about 10 seconds for this to reach you, and a little bit more for responses to start coming in. Okay, so it's a replacement effect, so you draw 2 cards instead. Yes, the player understands this. But do you have to reveal them? Do you have to reveal 0? No cards? 1 card? 2 cards? What do you think? I've done this one on Arena. Sometimes Arena doesn't work properly. That's very similar to the, oh yeah, it works on Modo. Okay, so we're getting a lot of different answers come up. We actually run the entire gamut. All right, yes, there we go. So we have 121.6c. Basically, it says that if the card that you're drawing from, in fact, needs you to do something to that card, and that card draw is replaced, you actually no longer have to perform that action. So, which means that for activating Jace's 0 with Teferi's Aegis Insight on the battlefield, you actually get to draw 2 cards. You don't have to reveal either one of them, and you don't have to remove any loyalty counters from Jace. Free value, right? It's one of those cases where you kind of need to know exactly where to look in the rules. All right, next. I control Ashaya and Cage Sun. Cage Sun is choosing green. Do I go infinite if I make Cage Sun a creature and then tap it for green mana? So as you can see, a lot of these questions come from weird Commander players, which is honestly like why online question answering exists. Oh good, we made alex.exe crash. So Ashaya is our new layers nightmare. At the moment. Okay, have any other possible responses coming through? Getting a little bit more typing. All right. Okay, Sun applies for itself and we'll add mana to it. We'll hit again. Okay, so I think we're starting to get to a point where we're starting to get some nice explanations going. So here's what happens. Cage Sun's ability, last ability, is a triggered mana ability. It doesn't use a stack, and now when you tap the Cage Sun for green, the triggered ability triggers from the activated mana ability, and then that doesn't use a stack. So what happens is that no one can respond to this. This keeps on adding more and more and more and more triggers that don't use a stack. So you keep repeating this action forever. You technically go infinite, but because this is a loop that cannot be stopped, and you're not going anywhere other than making more mana, and no one is allowed to take any other actions, this game ends in a draw. Okay, science question. How would we filter our search to get to the CR's point? Okay, so this one is you need to get practice with it. So sometimes knowing what keywords to look for are important. So in this case, for this Ashaya question, I would look up triggered mana ability or something to that lines, and try and get to the right spot. Basically, sometimes sometimes it's a matter of knowing what the right words to look for are, and sometimes it's players have asked this question so many times that I know what number it is now. Which untapping Cage Sun is part of paying a cost. I think you still get stuck there as well. I would probably need a little bit of time to research exactly what happens, but basically you're still kind of in the middle of paying for that spell, or paying for that spell or ability. I would need to look to see if those triggers would wait to go on the stack, or actually no. Remind me afterwards, and I'll see if I can get you an answer. Why is that different from tapping a regular forest? Technically, there isn't really a difference. It's just that having it animated makes it easier for me to mention fewer cards. Okay, next question. Can I use these dice with Meddling Mage? So these are some pretty nice looking dice. They have the names of some they have some card pictures on them and some abbreviations for names. Oh, right. Yes. On kind of doubling back to the Ashai question. Yes, this only goes in front of Cage Sun is a land. Yep. Okay. So we're getting some policy things coming in. Yes, those are pretty neat. I think the poster converted them from Star Wars Destiny dice. Okay. All right, so we have some questions here, or some answers here. Let's see here. One person thinks external strategic information, which could be true. Another person thinks as long as both players are okay with the name of the card actually being named, they'd say there wouldn't be any problem. Okay, so this is a pretty tough one because there aren't any like hard and fast right or wrong answers. There are very many shades of gray to this, because sometimes policy questions aren't just really clear cut. Because this could be outside notes, this could be outside information. If the player has these just hanging out on the table and just kind of fumbles around with them a lot, then you might not want to allow them because they're out in the open, and that could be outside information. Maybe if the player kind of keeps them in a deck box or in a separate little box, and they name the card first before they pull out the die, maybe that might be a little bit more allowable. But again, this is definitely up to the head judge in question for every single tournament. How can that be outside information? Well, basically, this is technically outside. This is technically notes because, again, this is sort of hints on what should I name with this Meddling Mage. This because you might not see, like, you might have to make decisions in the blind, or your opponent has revealed some amount of information in the archetype that they're playing. But you still need to connect the dots together to figure out, okay, what non-land card name should I be naming so that in this particular situation? So, like, for example, if your opponent leads on turn 1 Urza's Tower, then you might be thinking, oh, I should name Oblivion Stone. Yeah. Imagine if you had some dice for different decks and matchups. Yeah. That would be the case, because we see Walking Ballista, we see Oblivion Stone, we see Fatal Push, Lightning Bolt, Path to Exile. Basically, those are like removal options for two to three different archetypes. And if the player isn't super like aware of every single thing about meta, they might be turning to these as like default names. Okay. All right. So we've had a lot of nice discussion here. So let's tidy up some loose ends, and we'll have some more time for questions. About 5 minutes. So why would you want to do this? Well, few reasons. One, it's endless practice. Think of it as sort of crowdsourced practice questions that keep you up to date with all of the new and hot cards in various formats. So, like right now, it's Shaya. Before it used to be stuff with Scarab God, and then prior to that, there were questions about Marisol. So basically, when cards come in and you see that players have like more than the usual amount of questions about it, then you know that, hey, I should pay attention to this. Like other stuff involving layers especially. And right now, community, because without paper events in a lot of areas, we don't really get to interact with that many players, and this is one of our avenues of getting player interaction, especially outside of our normal play group. And finally, lifelong learning, because some of these questions will really, really, really interpret your ability to interpret, or challenge your ability to interpret the rules and policy documents, because sometimes you have to figure out that, I can actually name any card in any format when I'm prompted to name a card, not just the format that I'm playing in, or that, the name of a token that doesn't have a specific name to it is just the name of its subtypes, right? And one final meme to tide us over, kind of related to us here. So please don't try and do too much of this. Someone is wrong on the internet.png. But do give answering rules questions over the interwebs a try. It's fun. It's basically the most judging that we'll actually get to do unless you are staffed on the online events. So yeah, thanks everybody. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask. I will be trying my best to monitor the chats. Okay, we have about 2-ish minutes. Yeah, there's a little bit more discussion in the Discord chat about the Meddling Mage dice situation. So basically, if you're leaving that information out in the open, then it becomes like, does the player stand to gain an advantage out of not having to specifically or not having to memorize or this, or having a fallback? Potentially. Slightly off topic. Commander RC Discord has channel for custom magic cards. Yeah, basically, if you're comfortable with how rules templating works, then you might find some interesting things there. Any advice for running online events? Ooh, that is actually the topic of a completely different presentation. I believe Toby had made a very, very nice presentation on digital events, and it is up on YouTube. Let me see if I can find a link to it. Digital events. It might be unlisted. I'm not entirely sure, but I'll go and find it and stick it into the Discord chat. Oh yes, Rules Day Tuesday. Yes, that is also another good resource for learning. Okay. All right. Thanks, everybody.